Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is TVP World. You're watching World News. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and these are the latest headlines. Lithuania is planning to boost its defense spending to as much as 6% of its GDP in a move to shore up its security. The country's finance minister made the announcement Tuesday morning just as European officials gather in Brussels to discuss sanctions on Russia and other EU military financing issues. We now go live to our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins, in Brussels. Angela, what more can you tell us about this announcement?
Yes, so on the 35th anniversary of Lithuania's restitution of its independence, we heard the finance minister from that Baltic country, that is Rimantas Šadžius. He announced that he would like to see an increase of military spending for Lithuania to at least 6%. Now, Lithuania currently spends 3% of its GDP on its defensive capabilities. That's according to the most recent annual budget. This represents roughly 2.5 billion euros. So this scale up to at least 5% would be a significant increase of cash. Let's take a listen to what that finance minister said about this morning.
Problem of security that was along with us all 35 years in Lithuania. Now we should reinforce our security, and for that we need not 2, not 3, but up to 6% of GDP spending on the defense. And I'm very glad that among our colleagues at the Ministers of Finance, there is already a rising consensus that the proposals that have been put by the Commission very recently should be supported, and that security is our common European public good, which requires also common European financing.
But the major issue here is how Lithuania will cough up that cash. TVP World asked that minister how they expect to make room in the budget. He said that country intends on proposing a new tax incentive as well as tapping into those new EU funds as part of the rearm plan recently announced by the European Commission. But other reporters put this bold proposal to other ministers. This includes Sweden's finance minister. When she was asked regarding her country's position on this, she simply balked at the matter. But the Lithuanian finance minister admitted that this is a tricky issue to get over the line. But we're expecting more announcements on this at an afternoon press conference, as well as the tenor of discussions regarding a rearmament bank proposed by Poland's foreign minister Radosław Sikorski, as well as other EU military financing issues. But that's all from Brussels. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Angela, for the update, and please keep us posted as the situation in afternoon develops. Meanwhile, appreciate it. Polish Finance Minister Andrzej Domański says Poland is ready to engage in all discussions on EU rearming efforts. Speaking in Brussels, he emphasized that there are plenty of proposals on the table, and the Polish presidency is prepared to consider them all.
There are plenty of proposals on the table, and Polish presidency, we are ready to discuss all of them, as we believe there is no single tool that that will work. We need to find multiple solutions, and some solutions will be suitable for particular countries. And we do believe that the time to act is now. We need to build a strong European defense industry, and we need to secure financing for this huge rearmament that's needed in Europe.
As Kyiv officials are meeting with representatives from Washington and Saudi Arabia to discuss peace in Ukraine, the European Union is focusing on its own security. We now go live to our correspondent in Strasbourg, Kazimierz Wysiak, who is covering the current European Parliament session. Kazimierz, what's happening there now, and what's Europe's plan for the near future?
Good morning, Ben. Currently, we are having speeches from various European officials. We've just had a speech from the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who was summarizing last week's special summit of European leaders, where also she proposed and talked about the plan for boosting Europe's defense, the Rearm Europe plan that Angela has just mentioned as well. And this plan is supposed to free up to 800 billion euro for Europe's defense. defense. So various members of the European Parliament are now discussing this plan and how to move forward. We've also had a speech from Manfred Weber, the president, the chairman of the largest political group in the European Parliament, the European People's Party, and he was very critical of the recent events in the United States, in Washington, where the US President Donald Trump had a clash, a dispute with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, along with Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. He said that Manfred Weber said that this was a scandal and that now Europe is alone. Very strong words. And also he proposed that the European Union should consider creating the position of the President of the European Union, since we now have peace negotiations on Ukraine happening basically without Europe, without the EU. We've had the first round of talks between the US and Russia and Saudi Arabia without Ukraine and Europe present. Now we have the talks between the US and Ukrainian officials also without Europe present. So Manfred Weber said that the EU does not have a single leader who could represent the European Union. We have various officials, presidents of the European Commission, president of the European Council, but who should the US talk to when they want to speak with Europe? That's what Manfred Weber is proposing, to set up this position of the European president. We don't know how well this proposal will be received among other European leaders and officials. We will have to wait and see for that. But also today, the members of the European Parliament will be discussing urgent actions when it comes to supporting Ukraine, on how to keep supporting Ukraine. There was also talk about using Russian frozen assets to strengthen Ukraine's defenses. We will have to wait and see whether there will be any concrete steps on that. There is also an expectation on a debate about the white paper on defense, something that the European Commission is working on. We've had the proposal of Rearm Europe, but in 2 weeks, the European Commission President is expected to present this white paper on defense. So we are also waiting on details on that. In the meantime, back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Kazimierz. A lot going on there, so please keep us posted. Meanwhile, appreciate it. Now, ahead of crucial talks between U.S. and Ukrainian officials on Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Jeddah. Zelensky thanked the Crown Prince for his strong support of Ukraine, particularly in peace efforts and global diplomacy. The two leaders discussed key issues, including Ukraine's future and its cooperation with international partners. Zelensky praised Saudi Arabia's role in mediating international talks and stressed the importance of peace, especially in securing release of prisoners and the safe return of Ukrainian children, which he sees as vital steps in rebuilding trust. A major focus of their discussion was security guarantees, seen as crucial to Ukraine's future stability. The talks come just ahead of a high-stakes U.S.-Ukraine meeting, which Washington hopes will lead to concrete steps toward ending Russia's war.
We have to understand the Ukrainian position and just have a general idea of what concessions they'd be willing to make, because you're not going to get a ceasefire and an end of this war unless both sides make concessions. It's just obvious. We'll need to see, without, maybe we won't go into great details, we're not going to be sitting in a room drawing lines on a map, but just get a general sense of what concessions are in the realm of the possible for them and what they would need in return. Well, the Ukrainians are already receiving all defensive intelligence information as we speak. I think all the notion of the pause in aid broadly is something I hope we can resolve. Obviously, I think what happens tomorrow will be...
In the early hours of Tuesday, March 11th, Ukraine launched a drone attack on Russia, targeting an area just outside of Moscow. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin claims that more than 58 drones were shot down, all headed towards the capital. One of the drones struck a high-rise residential building in the town of Ramenskoye, damaging the top 3 floors. Emergency crews are on site. Russian media reports suggest the drones entered Moscow's airspace from multiple directions, with many approaching from the southeast. According to Moscow's regional governor, 2 people have been killed. The attack comes at a crucial moment as U.S. and Ukrainian officials hold talks on ending Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. In an interview with TVP World, Danish MEP Andrzej Domański expressed confidence that Greenland will remain an autonomous part of Denmark. He also dismissed the idea that Greenland would be more prosperous under U.S. control, as recently suggested by Donald Trump.
Of course, Greenland can have a debate of independence. It's not very realistic with the American sentiment that they will never be allowed fully independence with that strategic position in such a huge island with only 50,000 inhabitants. But if you look at how the U.S. have treated their indigenous people, if you look at how they are treating their overseas territories, I think there is a very good case to be made that the Danish that keep Greenland as a part of the Danish kingdom have had a much better treatment. For instance, Greenland is overrepresented in the Danish parliament with 2 seats, where dominions as the U.S. Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico doesn't have any representation in the American Congress and are not even allowed to vote as the president's elections.
The search for a missing crew member following Monday's ship collision in the North Sea has officially ended. The accident involved the U.S.-flagged tanker Stena Immaculate and the Portuguese container ship Solong, which collided off the coast of the United Kingdom. 36 crew members from both ships were safely brought to shore, and 1 person was hospitalized. However, 1 crew member from the Solong remains missing, and authorities have confirmed that search efforts have now concluded. As for the environmental impact, initial reports raise concerns about possible oil spills from the tanker. But damage assessments are still ongoing, and the incident, which occurred in a busy North Sea shipping lane, has heightened concerns over maritime safety and environmental risks. A heated exchange has erupted between billionaire Elon Musk and U.S. Senator Mark Kelly following Kelly's recent visit to Ukraine. Musk, who serves as an advisor to President Donald Trump, publicly called Kelly a traitor in an online dispute, sparking political controversy.
On social media platform X, Senator Mark Kelly posted that his recent trip to Ukraine reinforced his belief that the US must continue supporting the Ukrainian people. He stated, "What I saw proves that we can't give up on the Ukrainian people." Musk quickly responded, calling Kelly a traitor for his stance on continued military aid to Ukraine. The heated exchange has furthered the divide between Musk, who has at times suggested reducing US support for Ukraine, and those advocating for continued assistance. Senator Kelly has been a strong advocate for supporting Ukraine. Kelly argues that halting arms supplies to Ukraine would only embolden Russia, making them more aggressive and setting harder conditions in future negotiations. Serving as U.S. Senator for Arizona, Kelly has a distinguished record of public service, including his career as a combat pilot in the U.S. Navy and a NASA astronaut.
Pope Francis is responding well to treatment for double pneumonia, and doctor says his prognosis is no longer uncertain, according to the Vatican. The 80-year-old pontiff has been receiving care at Rome's Gemelli Hospital for over 3 weeks after being admitted on February 14th with a severe respiratory infection. His treatment has evolved over time, as the Vatican previously described his condition as a complex clinical situation. Pope Francis will remain hospitalized as long as necessary under continuous monitoring. This has been a challenging period for him following multiple health issues, including a bout of influenza in the past 2 years. However, his medical team remains optimistic, and the Pope continues to receive prayers and support from around the world. And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.